This is a huge occasion. As you know, the 4 original members of KISS are back in full makeup for a worldwide tour. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here they are, Peter, Paul, Ace, and Gene, KISS!
The magic was back. Many people point to the late 70s as to be KISS's glory days and the peak of their popularity, but I might slip a vote in for 1996 to be the absolute peak of the band's popularity. And how did they get there after having a rather lackluster early to mid-90s in terms of sales? Don't get me wrong, I love the Revenge lineup, but the band wasn't super relevant in terms of pop culture around that time. Where I last left off in the last video, the KISS lineup that was Gene, Paul, Bruce, and Eric Singer were in the studios recording a new album that would eventually become Carnival of Souls. But by about February of 1996, that project was put on hold for something else. See, KISS were worried that they wouldn't be able to fill arenas going out on tour again. They'd already had trouble doing that on the Revenge tour 4 years earlier. Well, they had a trick up their sleeve. In March of 1996, MTV Unplugged came out, which featured the reunion of the original lineup of KISS, just playing a few songs in an unplugged, acoustic, non-makeup capacity, with Ace and Peter just sort of showing up as special guests. But it made the MTV Unplugged special very successful, and it showed KISS what the possibility of reuniting for good might bring. At the 1996 Grammy Awards, Tupac was presenting an award, and he pointed out that the Grammy Awards are getting boring, and well, it was time to shock the people.
You know how the Grammys used to be, all straight-looking folks with suits, everybody looking tired, no surprises. We tired of that. We need something different, something new. We need to shock the people. So let's shock the people. Now, these my homeboys, and I see just about everything now.
Yes, there they were in all their glory. Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, and Peter Criss on stage together for the first time in over 15 years in their trademark makeup with their 1977 era Love Gun costumes, and all was right with the world once again. At first, it was just kind of, people weren't sure if it was a publicity stunt or if it meant a full-blown reunion, but all the questions were answered at a special press conference that KISS gave on board the USS Intrepid in April.
A world tour. We're going to visit every country that's formed or is about to be formed. We're here for that.
This tour,
we'll form our own.
we're not going to finish until we've hit every city, every country. We're committed to this for a year, 2 years, whatever it takes, and that'll be the first tour.
I've always wanted to time travel, you know, and it feels like I've gone back 15 years in time, and here I am again, and it's a fantastic feeling, and I really appreciate everybody being here.
They announced that the world tour would start in June, and it would truly be a world tour, covering all the markets KISS had ever played in before, and then some more as well. But it was quite a daunting task just to prepare for a tour of this magnitude, not only because the production was going to be enormous, but Ace and Peter were going to have to relearn their parts. They'd both gone on and done solo careers and hadn't practiced a lot of the songs that had made them famous in quite some time. And beyond that, the band just had to relearn their chemistry. So their deadline for getting ready was June. As I said, the tour was set to start in June, and the story goes that Tommy Thayer, who at the time was one of KISS's tour managers, and of course, spoiler alert, would eventually become KISS's full-time lead guitarist, was teaching Ace some of his old parts in the rehearsal studios. As everything slowly came together, they did a few weeks of technical rehearsals at Covo Arena, the place that they had sold out in 1975, 76, 77, one of their most popular venues back in the day. That's where they rigged in all their new gear for tour, planned everything out, And then they actually shipped it all out to California to do a warm-up show in Irvine, California on June 15th, 1996 at the KROQ Weenie Roast. Kiss were a special guest, only playing for an hour, but it was the first time that the original lineup of Kiss had been on stage in 17 years. People were excited, and the show went okay. There were several technical issues. I know Ace's smoking guitar didn't work, and I believe certain pyro effects set fire to the lighting rig.
Something tells me that wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe we'll burn this place down.
So, clearly, some work still needed to be done with only 2 weeks shy of the tour actually beginning. Again, like I said, all parts of the scope of this tour were enormous. It started on June 28th, 1996, in what I'm going to go ahead and say is was the most hyped Kiss concert of all time, sort of the most legendary Kiss concert of all time. Even though Kiss had played the Weenie Roast 2 weeks earlier, this was really considered to be the start of the tour proper and was marketed as such. It took place at Tiger Stadium in Detroit. Detroit was, of course, Kiss's second home. They had gotten their start in New York City, but had gotten their first taste of fame in Detroit. And Detroit was a city that had stuck by Kiss over the years, so it was a really cool gesture to start the tour there at Tiger Stadium in front of about 40,000 fans. One of the opening acts for this tour was Alice in Chains, and it's and not a lot of people know that Lane Staley's last performance as their lead singer was opening up for Kiss in the early days of the reunion tour. After that show, Kiss traveled across North America, selling out stadiums and arenas everywhere they went. I was recently out at a store and I was able to find a tour book from this early American leg of the Alive Worldwide tour in 1996. I can tell it's early because there's none of the live shots that were added in later. And it really does a good job. Kiss always did a great job with their tour books in telling the story of the band's legacy, at least the legacy of the original lineup, throughout the years, and then the new shots of who they were now. And it really illustrates just how hyped this tour was and how much everybody really wanted to have like that souvenir of just remembering having been there for that time their favorite band got back together. And of course there's the ads in the back. It's one of my prized possessions of my Kiss collection. When they got to their home base of New York City in July, they did something they'd never done before, and they sold out Madison Square Garden not once, not twice, not thrice, but 4 times. 4 consecutive sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden, an incredible feat for the band. In August, they packed their stuff up and they went over to Europe to perform at the Monsters of Rock Festival, which they'd done a few times. But this was special, of course, with the reunited lineup and the first overseas gig with the reunited original lineup. From there, it was back to America, and by September, Kiss had a really cool idea for what to do on the MTV Video Awards. They were given permission by the city of New York to set up underneath the Brooklyn Bridge and do a really cool mini set from there. A really iconic show, which, even though it was really short, the performance is really good. The band was tight, and I consider it to be one of the defining performances of the reunited era.
Everywhere around the world we try to tell people there are no borders, there are no prime ministers, there are no presidents. There's only one nation, that's Kiss Nation. There's only one rock and roll national anthem, rock and roll all night, party every day.
after weeks and weeks and months on the road, the original U.S. legs of touring finally ended in November, and were followed by a full-blown European leg before coming back to America before the year was over and doing just a couple more U.S. dates, finishing with a New Year's show at, I believe, in East Rutherford, New Jersey. What was cool about that show is that certain segments from this show for a special Kiss appearance on Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve.
We are here, and are we ever ready to go? You know, the great thing about New Year's Rockin' Eve is it's all kinds of music, and tonight at the Meadowlands, at the Continental Airlines Arena over there, KISS is appearing. They are breaking all the records in the world with their current concert tour. Gentlemen, you on stage yet?
Say hi to everybody.
Hello there. Happy New Year.
Hey, Dick, how you doing?
And again, look, KISS in 1996 was everywhere. Grammy Awards, MTV VMAs, New Year's Rockin' Eve. And when the dust settled on 1996, KISS had an incredible feat, and that was the #1 top grossing tour of 1996. I mean, just think about that for a second. Think about all the amazing people that were on tour in 1996. No one else, no musical touring act made more money on the road in 1996 than KISS. That is, I think, a major and somewhat overlooked feat for that group to have accomplished in their history. 1996 is the only year that they did that. And man, it was deserving. I find with a lot of musical groups and stylings that it just seems to come back around after 20 years. There seems to be a 20-year nostalgia wave that rockets a band back into popularity, especially if they do it right. And KISS absolutely did it right. And KISS were absolutely not done, as the reunion tour went on well into 1997 as well. In the early months of 1997, KISS performed in Australia and Japan. By the way, the first time that the original lineup had ever performed in Australia. By the time KISS got to Japan, though, the excessive touring had taken its toll, particularly on Gene, who totally lost his voice. And there's this interesting show from Osaka, Japan in January of 1997 where Gene loses his voice entirely, and Paul and Ace mostly are forced to sort of pick up his slack there. Then KISS went to South America. Again, this was the first time that the original lineup ever performed in South America during the March of 1997 leg down there. And then, as if it wasn't enough, it was time for another United States leg of touring in 1997. In the spring of 1997, KISS went back out on the road in America again for the unprecedented third U.S. leg of the tour. On this tour, they played some smaller markets that they hadn't gotten around to in 1996, and in certain cases, ever up to that point. They called it the Lost Cities Tour. And again, like I said, the pressures of being out on the road were enormous. At one show, for example, Peter Criss had just, I mean, it's hard to, I can't imagine how drummers are able to play night after night out on the road, let alone Peter, who was in his 50s by this point, in his early 50s, and his arms were giving out on him. He was developing tendonitis, and for one show, he actually had to miss the show. I believe it was in Columbus, Ohio. He just knew he wasn't going to be able to play. Like an hour before showtime or so, I don't know, it just became evident that Peter wasn't going to be able to do the show. And they had to make a difficult decision on whether to postpone the show or not. But I seem to recall that at the time of making that decision, doors had already been opened. KISS wasn't sure what to do, so what they wound up doing, and this was a controversial move for them at the time, they took drum tech Eddie Cannon, and they just put him in Peter Criss's makeup and just slapped him behind the drums and said, "Welcome to the big leagues. You're going to play a show with KISS." They apologized to the fans, put on a show with 3/4 of the original lineup. And generally it was fans were pretty thrilled that they went ahead with the concert in any capacity at all. Eddie Cannon did a pretty good job. That set an interesting precedent. It broke the precedent that only Gene, Paul, Ace, and Peter wear those makeup designs. That was the first time in KISS's whole history that anyone other than one of those original 4 wore one of the original 4 Personas makeup designs. Previously, the Catman had only been Peter Criss. Now, Eddie Cannon had worn it as a member of KISS, technically, for one show. Once the US tour wrapped up, they still weren't done. They went and did yet another leg of touring over in Europe, calling it the Once Wasn't Enough Tour, in reference to the previous tour of Europe in '96. And it all ended with a show in London, England at Finsbury Park on July 2nd, 1997, just a little over a year after the tour began. It's incredible to think that KISS did all of this touring in the space of just over a year. It really feels like it was a longer tour, but that was it. It was massive. It was enormous. All in all, KISS played 193 shows on the Alive Worldwide / Reunion Tour in 1996 and 1997, and KISS were quick to mention that this is only the beginning. It's not the end of the reunited KISS lineup, and that they had major plans for the future, including recording an album. They did all that, and I'm going to cover that in the next episode of KISSTORY. But I also do want to talk about the movie they made based on the reunion tour, a little documentary movie called The Second Coming, in which they basically filmed the entire tour from preparations to completion for a documentary that I think was really well done. Really shows the scope of the enormity that was that tour. Probably the most enormous tour KISS has ever done, with the exception of maybe the tour that they're on right now, the End of the World Tour, which, I mean, is currently on hold. But they have played a lot of dates, and they have a lot of dates still scheduled to be performed on that. But the Alive Worldwide / Reunion Tour was enormous. It was only the beginning of the reunited KISS and the new era of KISSTORY. And yes, I will cover the next chapter, the Psycho Circus chapter of the KISS story, in the next episode of the vlog. Thanks so much for watching. For those of you who don't know, I'm a musician myself. You can check out the description for links to where you can find my music, where it's sold or streamed online. Like this video if you like what you saw. Subscribe to this channel if you've been enjoying my videos, and you can ring the notification bell if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, which will be sometime this week. I usually try to upload multiple videos every week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you with another new vlog again real soon.